What's going on, Quotation Nation? QuotebyLee coming at you with our part 2 of our Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Game Informer Edition review slash just reading through and stuff like that. We left off on this page of the magazine, and we have quite a bit to get through today. We have like 9 more pages to get through. So we're going to try to get through them as quickly as possible. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this information. Again, this is Game Informer. It is a magazine subscription that you can purchase through GameStop and on their website. It's something like $30-40 a year or something. You get 12 different issues throughout the year. And if you're, I think if you're a pro member at GameStop, I think it just includes the price with that. And so check it out if you haven't already. We're going to dive into this though. We're going to talk about the Guardians. So these Guardians are something that I actually don't know too much about, so I'm excited to read about this. But where are the Guardians? The very first Breath of the Wild trailer showed a Guardian ripping through Hyrule's serene world, blasting lasers from its eyes and chasing Link. These robotic, spider-like mechanical creatures with mysterious histories, play such a big role in the game that Nintendo is giving them their own amiibo statue. I encountered small guardians that didn't offer much challenge while exploring Hyrule shrines, but my last task before handing the controller back to Nintendo during our extended play session involved taking on one of these formidable foes. A number of guardians are strewn, I don't know how to say that word, strewn across Hyrule, and each seems to be protecting something valuable. Some are derelict. I have no idea what that word is. That can't be English. Some are derelict, and non-functional, having succumbed to time, but still hide items for Link to discover. Others are partially functional, immobile with broken legs, but still capable of firing off devastating laser beams. The Guardian I encountered is fully functional and angry. I see it before it sees me, and pause to equip my bomb arrows. I ride close to the Guardian and vault off my horse. Pulling back my bowstring in mid-air causes everything to enter slow motion. I line up my shot, aiming for its mechanical eye as it prepares to fire the laser and let loose. The laser charge is interrupted and I land on the ground. But my confidence shatters when I notice I only removed a small fraction of the Guardian's health. I make multiple follow-up attempts, quickly dying each time. I finally change my approach to hiding in the nearby ruins, taking shots as the opportunities present themselves. I fire off a few bomb arrows, but the Guardian eventually blasts through my cover, making short work of me. The Guardians were the biggest challenge I faced during my 3 hours with the game, and their role in the story is an enticing mystery. I'm eager to learn more about them and figure out a winning strategy when Breath of the Wild releases. So this is really interesting. I like that they noted that each of these Guardians hides some certain treasure, even if they're immobile and not attacking you. They still might have some treasure, so make sure that when you're playing this game, you're exploring everything, because there's going to be some cool items, I'm guessing, that you're going to find with these things. On to the next page, we have, it is titled Free Time Exploration. So it looks like we have these giant skull monsters. I don't know what these things are called. Hopefully they let us know. And then another picture of Link riding a horse through the Great Plains. So I use my shield as a snowboard to descend from the shrine, and so that's actually something we've seen in videos, that you can use your shield as a snowboard, which is really cool and interesting. I'm excited to do that as well. Different shields offer different speeds and levels of control, and you can use shields to slide down grassy hills as well as snowy hills. I then jump from a tall tower using my paraglider to float to the ground, putting it away and taking it out during free fall to conserve stamina. After I land, I kill a nearby wolf who drops meat as most animals do. Since I am in the icy north, the meat flash freezes immediately, perfect for storage until I can heat it up later. I see a conspicuous rock in the distance and use a hammer to hit it, revealing minerals. These minerals can be sold for rupees, or used for crafting an element of the game. Crafting an element of the game we didn't get to spend time with. So that's something that's cool because this doesn't have just set item slots where you can we just have the item and you use it through the whole game through or gameplay. It has crafting, which we haven't gotten to see yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be along the lines of collect certain ore, blah blah blah. You can make a sword stronger, you can make a bow stronger, last longer. Because we've seen gameplay of a sword or a weapon breaking mid-battle. So this is a really cool mechanic that they're introducing into the game by upgrading items and really making the exploration of the game and looking for these certain items to make stronger weapons a more immersive part of the game. I think that's really, really sweet. So heading back to the stable, I stopped to climb a tree nearby. Jumping down, I decided to cut it. And this was something that's cool too. We've seen this in a lot of the different gameplays, cutting down trees to create bridges or chopping up for firewood. Really, really cool. Once the log collapses to the ground, I push it around with no specific purpose in mind, but I am enamored by merely having the option to do it. Players can use lumber to create bridges for crossing chasms or cut it up for firewood. Night sets in and giant skeletons appear. My attacks cause them to fall apart, but you must make sure to destroy their heads so they can't pull themselves back together. And that's an enemy that we've seen in multiple Zelda games. Break the bones, throw a bomb down, blow them up, stuff like that. Destroy the head so that they don't come back to life. As the skeleton struggles to collect itself, I grab its arm and use it as a weapon against itself. And I will try to find the trailer because there's a lot of different information we want to do. We saw that in one of the gameplays. Using the skeleton arm as a weapon was so cool. So cool. As Breath of the Wild's Hyrule is dense, but it's up to the player to highlight their pursuits. While looking at the map, players can place specific stamps to mark areas of interest. The available symbols include a sword, shield, bow, an arrow, pot, star, chest, gold leaf, and diamond. Players can place up to 100 of these symbols on the map at one time. The map starts sparsely detailed, but fills in as Link activates Sheikah Towers. So that's what those towers are called. They're Sheikah Towers. When you find these towers on the ground and use their Sheikah slate to activate them, they shoot into the sky with Link along for the ride. Raising them fills in the map with detail of the area nearby. These towers also offer an impressive view and serve as excellent jumping off points for paragliding. After exploring Hyrule's open world for a while longer, it's time to enter the Breath of the Wild dungeon. So we're going to get into this dungeon section, which is going to be really cool. But first we have this Onuma's open world research. So, for better and worse, Nintendo has been known to stay in its own bubble. The company often looks for its own solutions, but Onuma has changed that in recent years. In the past, I didn't play many video games, he admits. But then I realized this isn't right. I have to. Nowadays, I actually play a lot of overseas titles. I played Skyrim, Grand Theft Auto. I am not really into violence that much, so I don't play it. I also played Witcher and Far Cry. While playing those games, I do find some ideas, but it's not that it connects directly to Zelda to where I would take something and use it in Zelda. It's more of something I keep in the back of my head while developing the game. So that's kind of a cool little tidbit on his process. I like that. So the Dungeon of the Wild. Look at this Goron. This guy looks so dope. He's got this big hammer, the white beard. This is honestly so cool. Man, I love Gorons. They're like, I don't know if they're my favorite race, but I think they're my favorite race. I don't know, the Zoras are pretty cool too. The Dungeon of the Wild. Rather than let me find one, Nintendo took me directly to a dungeon, offering no clues about where it was or how Link got to it. Our Breath of the Wild tour guide, senior director of localization Nate Bildorf, offered only one mysterious hint. The dungeon is constantly moving, he says. So that's cool. A moving dungeon? Oh man, that's kind of like the ghost ship in Wind Waker. It's always moving to different areas. You gotta find it. That's super cool. To solve its mini physics-based traps and puzzles, Link must manipulate the entire enormous mechanism through his own ingenuity. Unlike most Zelda games, the dungeon can't be defined in terms of where it takes place in the game's progression. Because the dungeons can be tackled in any order, confident players can even skip them and go straight to Calamity Ganon before seeing all the game has to offer. This dungeon is covered by scatterings of a substance called malice. It hurts Link to touch, but can be destroyed by finding and attacking each pocket of Malice's eyeball. One particularly dangerous pool of Malice has a mouth spitting out bombs. I explore carefully, finding blocked doors and a number of air vents. I eventually find a place where Link can place his Sheikah Slate. This device, which Link carries from the game's opening moments, serves as his map, binoculars, and a number of other functions we won't discover until Breath of the Wild launches. Inserting my Sheikah Slate into the slot, both of which feature a symbol reminiscent of the Lens of Truth from previous Zelda games, Ocarina of Time, awards me a map and deposits data on the Sheikah Slate onto my Sheikah Slate via a strange glowing blue liquid. The map is 3D model, and players have the option to tilt the entire dungeon from here. Doing so slides blocks into place and opens up angles you could use to paraglide to new locations. Sounds like a dope dungeon. Like, this sounds really cool. I wish they had more art for it. I don't know if they will on the next page. A friendly voice tells me I need to access a series of terminals using my Sheikah Slate across the dungeon. Who he is or why he is invested in my success is unclear. The locations are marked on the 3D map, and I make my way to each while solving puzzles. Along the way, one involves standing on a block and tilting the dungeon so I can grab a ladder as the block slides by. Another involves placing a bomb in a room Link can't access himself and tilting the dungeon so the bomb rolls toward a destructible wall. Using a switch to open up an air vent finishes the bomb's roll toward its goal. In Breath of the Wild, all bombs are remote and do not blow up on a timer, meaning you never need to time an explosion. So I think that's really cool that they've done that with the bombs. It makes it so that in instances it is easier to use the bombs, but it makes it so that it gives them free range with puzzles and stuff. You know, there's lots of different things you can do with stationary bombs. And I do apologize, this is kind of a spoiler. If you've got this far, I'm sure that most of this stuff is spoiler to you. If you don't want to be spoiled, I suggest you continue. You don't continue. I don't think it's spoiling too much. It's not like showing the gameplay and how to do the dungeon. So that is fine by me. We're gonna keep going on. And Nintendo took a simpler approach to dungeons for Breath of the Wild. The dungeon I played through was smaller and less confusing overall. Way back in the day, dungeons weren't all that big. They were rather small. But around Twilight Princess, they started getting bigger, Onoma says. We tried to cram in a lot of surprises for the player, or a lot of emotions, meeting other characters, or injecting story elements into it. But then we kind of realized, do dungeons really need to be that big? Do we have to cram that much stuff into it? We quickly realized that a lot of fun was actually in getting to the dungeon, and so we focused on getting to the dungeon in this game. We wanted to create an environment where it was fun to find the dungeon in this large world. I find a few chests in the dungeon that offer items and ammunition like ice arrows. None of the chests have the familiar chest opening animation and signature musical flourish. I also never find a signature Zelda item or a compass. So this was something that was actually a huge surprise to a lot of people. They took out the chest sound. Now, anybody who has played a Zelda game knows that sound of the chest when you open it up. And it's, I don't know how I really feel about them taking the sound away, because I think it makes it less meaningful to find treasure. But with how big the game is, there's going to be treasure littered all across the land. And so I guess it's not as special to find these chests, because there's going to be tons of them. And especially with how many shrines that they have. And I do agree with them. You know, some maps, some of the Zelda dungeons were a little big, especially in Twilight Princess. And I like the way that they're approaching this, where the adventure is getting to the shrines, not all about, okay, here's one giant shrine, spend 2 hours inside of it and try to figure it out. This is, you know, explore at your own pace to these different dungeons and then take, you know, 15-20 minutes to complete a challenge. You know, I really like that, especially because there's over 100 shrines. It's like we're definitely going to be spending a lot of time adventuring throughout this land and these shrines and getting all the stuff that we want to experience. Let's see. So, and also no Zelda, no compass and no map. I think the map is already built in with a compass on the Sheikah slate, so I think that's why they decided not to put that in the game. Dungeons have always been like mazes, so we needed that compass to let the user know where the bosses were placed. But then, as you probably saw, you can kind of see the goal right away. You won't get lost, you just have to figure out how to get there. After hitting all the terminals, a paraglide through an air vent to the top of the dungeon for a boss fight. Windblight Ganon waits here to greet me. Calamity Ganon is the ultimate form, less evil that evil. Ultimate form. Is this formless? Is that what it's trying to say? It's got this break here. Calamity Ganon is the ultimate formless evil that Link must defeat. But other bosses and enemies in the game represent the manifestations of Calamity Ganon's evil. Windblight Ganon is a massive monster with no face and a gun-like arm. The mysterious but friendly voice cautions it's one of Ganon's own. It plays dirty. Since I never found a new item to use against the boss, all I have is Link's normal combat skills. A life meter appears on top of the screen for the boss, a rarity for Zelda. I start the fight firing ice arrows, which brings him out of the sky and to the ground. This gives me a window to use my sword to do more damage. My sword attacks make Windblight Ganon angry, and he starts creating tornadoes and firing large spikes at me. I am running low on arrows, so I throw bombs into the tornadoes with the goal of manually detonating them when he moves nearby. As he builds spikes to fire at me, he comes to the ground. I leave my cover behind a pillar, which wasn't going to be present for much longer at the rate the Windblight Ganon was destroying everything, and approach for a final attack. Confident I can win, I am successful. And I watch triumphantly as Windblight Ganon collapses. So that's a really cool boss. I can't wait. Man, this game is so close, guys. I can't wait. That's a really cool boss encounter. And I wonder if every single shrine is going to have a boss like this, or if it's only going to be a certain percentage of them. So this is a cool little art piece of one of the Zoras. I really like the red that they're giving the Zoras instead of their typical just blue skin and the blue tone. Zelda's Breath of the Wild creator Shigeru Miyamoto is the creator of The Legend of Zelda, and though he is not involved in the day-to-day development of Breath of the Wild, he works closely with Aonuma and his team, consulting and offering feedback. I really love the animals in the world, Miyamoto says. Even with the horses, you really get to know the horse and raise them and ride them, and even with the other animals, you can just view them, or if you get hungry, you might have to hunt them. You have that choice, and even when you look up at the sky, you see birds on their way somewhere, and it's fun to think, where are they going to end up? Where are they going? That's another quote that we saw from one of the videos. All right, we are already 18 minutes deep. We've only gotten through like 4 pages. I'm wondering if we should go ahead and stop right here. I think we're gonna turn this into a 3-part series. I don't want these episodes to be too long. We'll take one last look. Actually, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at this last page, and then we will end things here. So this is a new approach to weaponry. So we're gonna get the information that we wanted on weapons. All right, let's take a look. Looks like he's fighting a Lizalfo or a Bokoblin. I think that's a Lizalfo. He's got sweet armor and weapons and stuff. He's got like 4 weapons on his back, plus the arrows. Man. All right. In past Zelda games, Link typically finds new weapons or items in dungeons and keeps them for the rest of the game. Breath of the Wild takes a different approach that aligns more closely to modern role-playing games. Nearly every enemy drops their weapon, and Link can pick them up and use them as he wishes. He can also come across them in the world. I heard that American users are more eager to figure things out on their own, rather than having to go and find certain items in certain places. Onuma says, I am actually the same way. I wanted to add that element to Breath of the Wild. I experimented with a number of hammers, swords, clubs, and even a mop during my playthrough. A mop? Every style of weapon has a unique set of animations and feels different. Some swing faster and some deteriorate faster, but the only stat the player sees is power. Weapons are also susceptible to the elements. Metal weapons attract lightning during thunderstorms, which we talked about in the last episode that we had of this. Thunderstorms and wood weapons burn. It's unclear if crafting plays a role in acquiring new weapons, but I picked up many objects that certainly looked like they could be fashioned into a weapon. Dropping and switching between weapons can be done using the D-pad instead of entering the pause menu. When a weapon is rapidly deteriorating, I recommend throwing it at an enemy rather than dropping it, as these attacks do double damage. Nintendo says there are no invincible weapons in the game, which leads one to ponder the fate of the Master Sword. So that's actually very interesting. There's no sword that is invincible. That makes me feel like with the Master Sword, it's gonna break when you fight Calamity Ganon. I'm just gonna throw that out there because the Master Sword can't break. You can't just like somehow find the Master Sword and then like go exploring and have it break unless you can reforge it. I don't know, but I'm just gonna throw that out there that I think possibly the Master Sword will break during the fight with Calamity Ganon. But I think for this portion of the video, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. We'll turn this into a 3-parter going over all this information. I know it's a lot. It's really exciting. I can't wait to do this page. This page looks awesome. This giant boss-looking guy. I have no idea what this thing is. I'm excited to find out with you guys. But thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. And let me know what you think of this video down below. But I'm going to get the heck out of here, guys. As always, if you're not hydrating, you're dehydrating. QuotebyLee.
When you're thinking, damn, what is this? That's us. Make it speakers bam when it hits like what? Give it summer jams with that west side stuff. Everybody hands in the air straight up. Put them to the sky so high, now jump. Jay is something crazy when that bass line bump. We just getting started, but that beat gon' cut. We just wanna party, so tonight, so what? Come on, everybody, put the drink down back.